Why did you join the military?
Ooh, let me tell you, I was that kid who had her life figured out. I knew that I was going into the Air Force when I was in the seventh grade.
Okay.
Um, they came to the school and was talking about JROTC, and I was like, you know what? That's me. That's who I am. So I knew that I was going to go into the Air Force. I actually told myself that I was going to do 30 years. I wanted to come out nothing less than a colonel. I was that kid.
Okay.
Uh,
My name is Marquetta. Welcome to She Served, She Rose, the podcast. We are so honored, blessed, excited for what we have in store for you today. We have Air Force veteran and transformational coach, Janae Ford. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Janae.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor to share this platform with you.
Thank you. And I just gave just a brief introduction here, but if you would tell us a little bit about who you are as well, we want to hear from you.
Yes, of course. So I am an Air Force combat veteran, served as a security forces member in the Air Force during my time of 6 years. After that, I did federal security and operations management for 9 years. And now I have embarked on the amazing journey as an entrepreneur and transformation coach and consultant. So I love what I do, and I'm just so pleased and honored to be here.
Awesome. Okay, we want to hear all about that, but I always like to go all the way back to the beginning and ask, what made you sign the dotted line? Why did you join the military?
Ooh, let me tell you, I was that kid who had her life figured out. I knew that I was going into the Air Force when I was in the seventh grade.
Okay.
Um, they came to the school and was talking about JROTC, and I was like, you know what? That's me. That's who I am. So I knew that I was going to go into the Air Force. I actually told myself that I was going to do 30 years. I wanted to come out nothing less than a colonel. I was that kid.
Okay.
Um, life happened. I ended up, just joining Open General, which you go in without a job assignment. And I ended up in security forces, and I loved my journey and my career that I had.
That is awesome. I do want to get back to that open general because I went into the Air Force open general as well.
Let me tell
So
you.
I know a bit about that, but if you could explain kind of a little bit more how your career field got chosen and what that kind of means for those that aren't as, savvy with the military lingo.
Okay, so initially I wanted to go in through the ROTC program when I was attending Southern University in Louisiana, but unfortunately I missed the deadline, and then I started experiencing different challenges, and I was like, hey, I'm ready to go. And I spoke with an enlisted recruiter, and I was majoring in computer science at the time. And he was like, yeah, we can get you in. We can get you in right now. I'm like, am I going to do programming? And he was like, yeah, sure, sure. And then he was like, okay, we got this open general. And I was like, is that computers? And he was like, yeah, sure, sure. Sure. So I'm like, let's do it. I'm excited. I'm this excited kid. I go in, and I actually didn't find out about my job until after basic training. So the whole time, I'm shouldering with other people who are excited about being in their jobs. And I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So they said security forces. I looked at that and it said security forces. I'm like, now look, I knew I did not want to be a cop. Like who? So so I was not happy. I went back and forth. I was trying to contact my recruiter. I was like, I'm not supposed to be security forces. I'm supposed to be in programming. But I sucked it up and they shipped me off to McGuire Air Force Base that's in New Jersey. And I served my entire 6 years at that station in security forces. So it was a journey, but make sure, I will say, anyone who have kids or anybody looking to join, have an actual job solidified, unless you don't mind, just get it in there in which way you can. So that was my experience going into the military.
I totally understand. I went in open general as well. I didn't have a lot of information. I wasn't planning on going in as a child, but I was kind of at a space in life where I'm out of high school. I'm not really doing the college thing, and I don't know what life looks like for me. And another friend thought it'd be a good idea to join the military reserve, but we didn't know we had talked to an active duty recruiter and kind of got the same thing. Your ASVAB scores are great. Go, go, go. You're going to get the best job. Look at these scores.
Yes,
so,
yes.
And,
yes.
That's the thing about, they say about Air Force specifically, is if you go in open general, you're a cook or a cop. That's what I hear. So
yes,
my experience was cook, which we know in the Air Force is a lot of areas. It's like hospitality management. But yeah, those are what you hear.
Yes, and I feel like it still holds truth.
Right. So you were at Southern University, you were in college, you
Yes.
decided to go ahead and enlist. And so how did the vision change? I mean, because even if you're enlisted, you could become an officer and you could have still gone to that, colonel, the vision that the seventh grader had. So how did that vision change once you went in and enlisted?
So actually I was still moving forward throughout my years of going into those commissioning programs. They had one where you enlist, but you still go to OTS, to the officer training school as an enlisted member. So I was still on that track of trying to get there. I had completed, my degree. While I was still moving forward. But unfortunately, on my last deployment, this was my third deployment, I experienced sexual assault. So that incident happened, and I'm security forces, so we deploy pretty often. So for me, I didn't want to experience that, and it totally shifted my trajectory, because when I came home, I was not okay. So to avoid, experiencing that in the future, I decided not to reenlist and to leave the military. And I didn't report it or anything like that. So I just felt like the best option for me at the time was to separate from the military.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so sorry that happened to you. And it's something that I find that we just say, I experienced this, but that's something that is very, very weighted, very traumatizing. And like you said, will change the entire trajectory of your life. And we know that right now, 30% of military women say that they have experienced military sexual trauma in some form or fashion. But we also know that number, as high as it is extremely low. Yes. Of what is actually being reported. So it really takes actually verbalizing it to help other sisters in the military. So again, I just want to say, before we go any further, thank you. Thank you for even just sharing that and being willing, because people need to hear it so that they can start their own healing journey. And I know that you help people with their healing journey. I cannot wait to hear about that. But I just kind of want to stay here a bit, because a lot of times we talk about that military experience, then we jump to, now I'm fine, and here's what I've done, and here's where I can talk about it. But it's that space in the middle, right, where we're not okay.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the work period where if anyone is in that space and you kind of feel helpless, that you can still get to the other side.
Absolutely.
So I would like to hear more about that. So when you got out the military, what happened in between getting out the military until your path as an entrepreneur today?
So when I got out of the military, I ended up going straight into college because I completed my CCAF, which is the going through community college of the Air Force, receiving that criminal justice degree. But I still had this desire for psychology and just learning the different behaviors because my mom battled with addiction when I was a child.
Okay.
So I was often just trying to find a fix. I'm like, there had to be a fix. So I still yearn for to be of some type of service for other people. So I went in and completed my bachelor's of science in psychology. And the school that I went to, which is Life University in Atlanta, was the only school which is primarily for chiropractors, but they was the only school that was accredited for my GI Bill to allow me to gain my life coaching certification
Okay.
along with my bachelor in psychology and my associates in coaching psychology. So I completed my degree, but coaching was not as, normalized back then. So the coins wasn't coining for me. So,
Okay.
so I had to lean on my military experience in law enforcement and everything. So that is what guided me through to do federal security, but work in operations management for that entire time for the 9 years that I was out of the military.
Okay.
Yes. And I worked with transitioning veterans part-time,
Mhm.
like with resume writing, because the language of the military is totally different than the language of the civilian world. So just coaching individuals who was coming out of the military, how to prepare them for interviews, how to prepare them from transitioning from, say, a cop, but now you're going into corporate America. Well, you can't lock somebody up at attention when,
Right.
when you're trying to give corrective action. So that was a challenge. So I worked with individuals throughout that time on a part-time basis, but life started lifing for me. And I decided to move from operations management and build my business in coaching. And I love everything that I do. And I appreciate everything that I've gained from working in operations management because, of course, I use the tools from the military, from, my as a coach into how I was as a manager. So, yeah,
So
that was.
how did you work through the trauma that you experienced in the military to be able to move forward once you got out of the military? Because again, this ended your career, something that you saw from seventh grade. I'm going to be no less than a full bird colonel. So, that's not minor at all. So, what was that transition like for you? And then deciding I'm going to help other military members.
So for me, back then, my what showed up and what I promote now is patterns.
Okay.
Um, my pattern of how I handled trauma and how I dealt with it was through eating. So I
Mm.
was diagnosed with a binge eating disorder. At the time, they had me only diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and PTSD came later on. So the whole time, I'm not realizing, these patterns of destructive behaviors
Okay.
because, my kids are good, family is good, I'm excelling at work, so I
Mm.
believe that I'm good.
Right.
But at the same time, why am I in the closet crying all the time? Why am
Mm.
I not sleeping? Why am I having these thoughts? Like, why am I, so I'm like, I'm not okay. I'm just not okay. So I go and I go through the VA. Everything has been through the VA. I'm very thankful of my personal experience with the VA, because the resources that I've gained with them have been very beneficial.
Awesome.
I went through and I tried to start counseling back in 2016 when they said, you know, you have a binge eating disorder. And I'm like, what? And we don't realize when we're in the military, for me, like preparing for your physical fitness test, you try and do your best. I was starving myself. I'm not even gonna hold you. I was starving myself to make the waist, and then, you know, trying to work out. And then you pass the PT test. And all of a sudden I go on this cycle of overeating compulsively and everything like that. And it just became a vicious cycle throughout the years. And I didn't realize that that was how I coped.
Mm.
That was what I utilized. That was my tool. And in addition to eating, it was alcohol. So those were my spaces. I'm like, this is the glue that's keeping this mask on of I'm okay, when deep down she's not okay. And I still hadn't put together that I was still looking through the lenses of a victim of assault. You know, I came home from there and I had a divorce because I was damaged goods. You know, I'm dealing with feeling like trash. I'm feeling, you know, just thrown away because nobody saved me. And divorcing my husband at the time, dealing with destructive behaviors, and still like trying to push through and make it look like I'm okay. Well, weight just started piling and piling. And here I am knocking at almost 300 pounds. And I'm like, something got to give, because I am just not happy.
Yeah.
So I began my weight loss journey, and that's when it started clicking. It started clicking with the patterns of my thoughts, the patterns of my belief systems, like the patterns of what I was telling myself throughout this time. And then just working towards understanding not just the symptom of weight gain, because initially I was like, okay, if I lose the weight, then I will feel better. If I lose the weight, I will be able to, you know, help be with my kids longer. If I lose the weight, focusing on the weight and totally missing the trauma. That was really my issue.
Right. The weight was a physical sign.
Yes. I'm like, I'm not sleeping. I'm not this. I'm not that. You lose the weight because I've lost 130 pounds.
Wow.
I'm still unhappy. I'm still in anguish. I'm still, you know, dealing with alcoholism. So it wasn't the weight. It wasn't the physical weight. So I had to really take a deep dive into what was the root cause. And the root cause was I never addressed the trauma that was still sitting there. So I have the avoidance style. So that's how I coped with trauma, was I would totally block it out as if it never happened and just try to float on. But in a way, I was numbing myself and trying to exist in a world that I was basically in an abyss in my head in reality. Like I just was like, well, I guess happiness look like when your kids are smiling. Happiness don't necessarily look, you know, fulfilling personally. This is what I'm telling myself. Like as long as my kids are good, you know, like as long as my family is okay, then I guess this is what happiness look like.
And I think I have to pause right there because you literally just sent chills through my entire body, because I think a lot of us feel like that. You know, my fruits, I'm juggling all the things on the plate, even though I'm miserable on the inside, everything must be fine. And it is a lot of avoidance. So yes, we have to keep going. So yes, as you're walking through this journey.
Yes. I came 2022, that mask fell. It
Okay.
shattered. I was revealed. I was like, woe is me, because I was arrested for drinking while intoxicated. And it was in that moment where I didn't even realize I had the problem. Like,
Mm,
because I was so used to having that mask on and sharing, I'm functioning. I'm not on the side of the road, drinking like a wino. Like what I'm saying? I'm thinking I'm okay.
right.
But I was not. 2022, I lost my grandmother who was my rock.
I'm
And I
sorry for
didn't,
that.
thank you. I didn't realize that that was a trigger for me.
Mm,
And just on my journey, understanding the triggers, because we can go, this PTSD and everything like that that comes with it can lie dormant for so long.
mhm.
And something can just instantly trigger. And I think losing my rock, who was my grandmother, was definitely a tipping. It was a trigger and it tipped me right on downhill.
Mm,
Just drinking and then trying to cope but still utilize that mask as I'm okay. I'm still
mm,
thinking I'm okay.
okay.
And when I got arrested, there was no mask available. It was, this is your truth. Now, I'm in federal security operations management. I carry a firearm. I had to resign. So I lost everything from that one arrest.
Wow.
I had to resign from my job. And I started having frequent migraines. So my health is, falling apart. And I resigned. I had to sell my house. I was not in a good place. My kids had to go to their father for full time. So
Mm,
I've lost everything. I hit a bottom. And suicide, I felt like, was my only way out, because I'm like, I have lived my life in trying to make sure everything was perfect. And I was this ambitious go getter. So I'm like, how did I come here? Like, how am I here at bottom?
right.
What do I have left to offer? Because I thought I gave my all. I thought I
Mm,
had already given my all. So the answer to what I had left was nothing for me. And I had that depression bottle of medication sitting on my nightstand, but a 5-year-old in my bed
mm,
was asleep. And for me, I had planned it out. I had the water bottle, I had everything. But he moved in his sleep. And I felt like I was in this trance. And when he moved in his sleep, oh my goodness, it was like it knocked me out of this trance. And I just was engulfed with tears, because here I am about to call it quits on life, not even considering the impact that it would have on my kids.
mm,
And I held on to my baby at the time, and I just chose to never let go.
mm.
No, I just chose to, okay, how do I turn this trauma
Yeah.
into my triumph? How
Yes.
do I turn the pain that I've been sitting with into a purpose for other people to not experience this?
Yes.
This is not okay. So it was in that moment that I was like, okay, use me. Use me as this beacon of resiliency, because I'm going to come through this. And I'm going to share with other people how to make it through this and appreciate themselves in their truth, and
Yes.
not just a mask. If you're not okay, it's okay to not be okay. So I'm sorry, I'll be getting on a tangent.
No, this is it. This is exactly where we want to be.
Right.
Because again, especially we focus on women of color specifically. And I'm not saying that we don't all face tons of adversity, we do. However, for women of color specifically, we do a lot of times hold the mantle of having to hold so many things while presenting as, okay, I'm okay, I'm fine. I'm okay, I'm fine. Even that, knowing how to properly grieve, just having the space to be allowed to grieve, and for us to say, like you just said, I'm not okay. That's something that we do not like to say. I am not okay.
Yeah.
And, just a little bit of myself, I've had a lot of that journey as well. I am a widow at 44 years old, and I had to really get into that space of, I'm not okay. I'm
Yeah.
not okay. And really try to pull myself up, and just everything looks different, right? What you perceive as okay, how you treat yourself is all different. So we're in this space. You decided to hold on to your baby and never let go. And so when you got out of that bed, now what does that look like?
When look, it was so this was, throughout the journey, you have those moments, you have those thoughts, those suicidal thoughts at times. But that was that first time that I put a plan together. Um, and I really felt like everybody would be better off without me. So when we woke up, because the next day he had to go to school, and wait, he had no idea. He asking, "Mommy, my eyes are puffy," and everything. So once I took them to school, I came back home and I just was like, "Janae, you have to figure this out. You have to figure this out. You have your kids." And then just being a child who grew up with a mother that was dealing with an addiction, you're yearning for validation, you're yearning for acceptance, you're yearning for belonging, you're yearning to be loved. And
Mm-hmm.
here I am as a parent ready to let go, of my kids. So after that night, I chose to, baby, when I said I prayed, I came home and fell on my knees. I was I had to totally surrender.
Mm.
Because I didn't have a plan. I didn't have, here I am at, 35 years old, having a six-figure income, sitting at tables that you don't see a young Black woman sitting at. So I'm like, where do I go? Because I thought the plan was here. Yet again, I've had a space that has totally shifted my trajectory yet again.
Mm.
So I said, you know what? Let me be a safe space, because that's what I felt like I needed. Like,
Mm.
had these safe spaces been available because we think about the assault as the trauma, but actually it's the aftermath that a lot of people don't really consider. It's like, how do you come back after that situation and navigate as a wife? How do you come back and navigate as a mother? What tools can I use? And for me, I'm a first responder. So I can't say, hey, mental health, I'm not okay, because that's a red flag in your record. You're not able
Mm.
to carry your firearm. You're not able to work if you say I'm not okay.
Wow.
So I wanted to be in a space where I offered services to individuals who could not go to those direct lines of treatment and say, I'm not okay. I wanted to be a safe space. Going to when I started my sobriety journey and going to AA groups, I saw the benefit of Alcohol Anonymous, like, because nobody knew you when you walked out. You was who you were when you came in. You could be the president of a company and, you know, a janitor of a different company, but we all came in there to support and uplift and come in there without judgment. And that's where I was like, this is what we need. This is the type of network that we need for those that have experienced trauma, those who are victims and survivors. We need a safe space to not feel judged or obligated to report because that is my duty, that is my job. But who are you as a person? You're wearing the mask of your profession, but who are you as a person? How can you pour into your job if your cup is empty?
Right.
And my cup was empty. I was running on fumes, which why I led to that space of driving while intoxicated, because the alcohol was the glue to this mask that was barely holding on. So I'm like, we need these safe spaces. But in addition to that, I feel like we need awareness to what it looks like in behaviors of victims after. Because I'm a high functioning, ambitious person.
Right.
And when I came home, I was easily angered. I'm trying to fight. I'm dealing with marital problems. So there was a shift,
Right.
but it went unnoticed. And I feel like it's those, we talk about atomic habits, but it's the atomic habits of change of a high functioning individual. What does that look like when they have experienced trauma? Because their reaction versus someone who's not highly functioning is totally different.
Right.
But all you have to do is do a simple check-in and have the right work environment and foster the supportive type of work environment to check in with your employees, to check in, you know, with your staff when there's a simple shift. If they never missed a day at work and then all of a sudden they have check in at that moment. Don't wait months after where they come, you know, guns blazing, and we've missed it. It's safe spaces that can prevent those moments from happening. So that's why I chose to form Unmask and Transform, because it's in those small patterns that you have to transform. Because what we don't transform will simply transfer. My binge eating was transferred to alcohol. So I'm like, if you don't address those habits, those patterns, and transform those into healthier coping mechanisms that allow you to grow personally, it will simply transfer and the cycle will just continue on and on and on.
That's good. I want to chew that up and just swallow that for a minute. That transfer versus transform.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because I looked at the patterns of traumatic experiences that I had in my life, and the source may not have been food, but the product of binging, but binging in different ways was how I coped or how I tried to avoid addressing that I was not okay. If you're an impulsive shopper, you may not even realize why you are, you know, what triggered you to like, let me go shop, boom, 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 boom. And then you feel all this regret and shame of shopping, where you trying to address, I don't want to shop no more, but you're not addressing your shopping because you're dealing with a traumatic experience that hasn't came to surface yet. So it's like, keep treating the symptoms and not the root cause. You see people who have these gambling addictions and everybody want to treat, I don't want to go to a casino. But what's triggering this behavior? Let's talk about that. So that's what I do. I hit you at the core. No, you come to me and I want to lose 15. No, we're gonna talk about these behaviors before we talk about losing just this 15 pounds. We're gonna talk about these triggers and what situations is bringing this up for you to overeat. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. So can we talk about more about, now that we're talking about your business? One, so we left off with where you were at, again, kind of you realizing, but what was the work? I mean, you're already educated, you're already high functioning, you already have the things, the certifications, all of these things are here. So what was that internal work look like for you, where it was like, and now I am empowered, not just educated, to do the work to help others with the safe space, the healing, and moving forward?
So for me, it was once I started on my own, because I let people know when I promote my services, I'm the testimony. I'm a walking transformation. Like I strongly believe that. And it was through the counseling. And like I said, I did the group AA, but I started gaining an appreciation for meditation, for self-care practices, because we talk about, oh, you need self-care, you need self-care. But do you honestly know what that looked like? Some people say, oh, you could just write out affirmations, but it's a whole practice in how you manifest affirmations in your life. It's not just about writing it out and put it on a poster. You have to be intentional, because faith without work is dead, so you have to put in the work. When you create a vision board, you don't create the vision board just for it to sit on the wall. You have to make it a practice, put it in your daily routine, and allow you to have those vision like those it's a way that you can practice vision techniques to amplify the chances of your goals happening, coming up. And so it's educating on what self-care look like. And for me, journaling, I was not a person who was like, okay, I'm about to write. But I would write when I started dealing with issues with concentration and lack of focus and everything like that. I just had to start jotting down my thoughts. It'll come, I'm like jotting. Well, in turn, that's journaling. You don't have to write a book sitting there at one time. You can sit here and just think of a question like, hey, I'm gonna come back to that. And then you end up journaling. And then we have these fancy phones today. So, you could do an audio. You could be driving and have this thought come and like, oh, before I forget, you do a voice recording. So I put that out there to my clients in a way to educate them. I don't want to just promote self-care, but I also want to educate you on what that looked like, but what it looked like for you as an individual, because self-care for me may not look like self-care for you. So I learn who you are, because comparison and trying to fit into a group has been like this trend. And I'm like, that's what lead to destructive behaviors. Learn to appreciate who you are. It's okay. I'm an introvert in real life. So I'm like, when I go to events, I have to prepare myself when I walk in. I know that I cannot have my back towards the door. Like, I'm hyper vigilant. So I have to make sure I get there early enough to get a decent, place. So it's learning how to manage who you are and not denying who you are, but accepting and embracing it by gaining these tools and strategies that you can implement on your day in your daily routine, and just moving through that. And that's what I like to just facilitate with my clients.
So is there a timeline on your service? Like, is it a 6-month program, a 12-week program?
Yes. So I offer different packages. The most common is the 90-day. package, and I also allow it to get tailored. So depending on your need, because I just feel like since the work is more core than a specific, oh, I want to get this promotion next month. What do I need to do to get this promotion? And I'm like, no, let's address the imposter syndrome. Like, let's go there.
Right.
So I'm like, not only promote, but let's flourish and excel in this, So I work in that space and I tailor it. If you need me, as I'm an accountability partner, I consider myself a transformational coach because that's what I'm trying to do for you. But I'm also an accountability partner. We're in this together. I'm holding your hand and we are journeying through life together. So whatever you need or however you need me to be present to champion you, but to also hold you accountable is how I do. And I also do workshops. I work through workshops with organizations. And that's where I collaborate with different wellness professionals and educate and empower, the workforce on how to create safe spaces, for someone, because it's the people is what make the organization work. It's not the product, it's the people. Like, I think that needs to be understood. And if your people is not okay, then that product that you're trying to generate is just not going to happen. Productivity is just not going to excel if your people is not okay. So that I promote that as well. So I do a lot of workshops and leadership seminars as well, and just create more awareness and education towards allowing your people to come first.
Got you. So just a little bit of a shift, and I definitely want to get back into how people can contact you directly. I want to hear more about your work. But along your path, a lot of our women happen to be entrepreneurs as well. As veterans, we do have like just an innate leadership quality to us, period, that was, developed. So were there any resources that you tapped into as being a veteran that helped you along your journey? I know that you did a lot at the VA.
Yes, it was I'm in Texas. So
Okay.
the Texas Veterans Commission has been like a huge resource for me. I expressed I was arrested for the DWI. This is why I felt like, okay, God, I see what you're doing, because that happened. But now I do the Veterans Treatment Court program. And a lot of veterans have no idea, about this option. It allows you to divert the criminal charge, and you go through this program and you can get your case expunged off of your record. So throughout that process, I was introduced to a lot of resources here within the community and was able to partner with veteran organizations. For example, the American Warrior Association, who would have known that they offer free retreats for veterans throughout the nation. And I am having the privilege to do a retreat in March. And I was like, it's free, go horseback riding, hiking, self-care practices. I'm like, let's go. So I'm very excited about that. I experienced homelessness, and I learned about the HUD-VASH program through the Veteran Affairs. I learned about that program, and they also have a program for veterans who are starting their journey as an entrepreneur. In Texas, you can form your LLC or S Corp for free. And I'm like,
what organization provides that?
No, that's just state. Like, if you are a veteran and you have a DD 214, when you submit your application for your LLC, there's no charge.
Wow.
And they just started that. I believe 2023 was the first year that veterans can start their journey in business for free in Texas. So I was like, okay, I see what we're doing.
Yeah, all of those resources are what we definitely want to hear about, because it's those things along the way that not only make an impact, but like you said, expose you to so many more opportunities. I had the opportunity with Wounded Warrior Project to go on what they call a Project Odyssey, which is an odyssey, and we got to go to the Grand Canyon, bike through the Grand Canyon, but a lot of internal work. There were some workshops that were led where there were just psychologists in the room holding the space, just in case someone got triggered and needed to have a one-on-one, but just time focused on 4 days where you're doing a personal odyssey focused on self.
Yeah.
And I actually did that the first year for my birthday, the first year after I lost my husband. I didn't want to be around anyone. I didn't want to acknowledge my birthday. It was like, so I was alone with strangers that were veteran and other women, but I got to have that safe space, like you talk about, and just do some internal work. One of the resources you pointed out, because you were going, and they are great. I can't wait for us to highlight them. But one that we have not heard on the podcast for sure yet is what happens with the court system. Can you talk a little bit more about that for veterans?
Yes. So with the Veterans Treatment Court, what happens is if you have any, so I'm 100%, and if you have any service-connected disabilities that ranges from PTSD, depression, military sexual assault, combat PTSD, anything like that, you have that, and you experience one or more criminal charges, they can transfer your case into a diversion program, which is how you would get accepted into the Veterans Court. And that is a phase program. So it's a treatment court. You go in as if you're on probation, you report every time, or I've seen people who fail to accept the resources and you don't do the program, you go to jail. So I think the benefit of it is it introduced you to so many resources. I had no clue that Texas had so many resources, from financial resources. Combat Arms has been a great resource when it comes financially. If you are trying to build a business, if you just need education on how to look for a job, how to sustain a job. And then different counties have veteran resources. So that space, it gives you an introduction to that. And then their goal is to pretty much rehabilitate you into a functioning individual who will not fall back into old habits. Their treatment program is really tailored to who you are as a person. So when you walk out of there, not only will your case be expunged and off your record, but I feel like you coming out anew. Like you come out as a person with a second chance on life. And I think that more people need to know, especially, people who are struggling, alcoholism, or, just struggling. This option is really a place to consider if you run into the den, the lion's den of the criminal chain. So get with someone, different counties. I'm not sure if it's nationwide, if the Veterans Court is nationwide. I do believe they said 39 states they have the Veterans Treatment Court available, but it's not well known in the veterans community, because honestly, I didn't see it until I was locked up, and they had a poster. They had the poster of the Veterans Treatment Court, and I was like, oh, okay. So I don't have to get locked up. So I, did my application, and I had everything documented, and, did the interview, and they accepted me into the program. It's a 18 to 24 month program. Once you get out, you brand new.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I highly recommend if anybody is dealing with any type of criminal charges, DWIs, or anything like that, to look to see if there's a county available that has the Veterans Treatment Court.
Thank you for your transparency and all that you've shared, Janae. Like I was saying before, a lot of times we're high functioning. We do, like you said, your work specifically, we keep on that mask for filth, baby. Nobody's getting behind the mask. I am okay. I got this. It's under control. But even when you said what happened one night, one day, one decision, one occurrence, and everything just unravels, and sometimes it can lead to our lowest point, which you went through.
Yes.
However, that lowest point exposed so many resources, so many opportunities. Just really seems like it empowered and fueled, open doors for the work that you do. And a lot of times we need that so that, like you said, we can take off the mask and operate from our truth.
Yes.
So how do people get in touch with you, the work you're doing? What else would you like to share with us? Please, we want to hear more.
Okay, so my website is unmaskingtransformation.com. I am also available through social media platforms. On Instagram, I am Jenei, that's I am Jenei. On Facebook, you can look me up at Jenei Ford, Jenei. There's no A in my name, guys. So TikTok, the same thing, Jenei Ford. I take on a lot of different clients through just direct messaging through social media. Social media has been a great platform for me to share. I also love to collaborate with thought leaders, especially with the initiative of creating more safe spaces globally. So I would love to just further the conversation on what that could look like in the military community, and just creating that space.
That is awesome. And just being a person that holds the space for people, it's so very needed. We would love to hear more about the work that you're doing in the She Served She Rose community. Yeah, we would just love to hear from you more. We're glad that you're a part, and we just want to be able to keep our relationship and connection with you because, it takes a village. We strengthen and empower each other. And again, the fact that you're so transparent in your testimony, for me, I like to see that. No, what did you actually do? I'm a Virgo. Don't tell me, like, so when you said, don't tell me to put up a vision board, then what?
Yes, yes.
Give me bites. Tell me exactly what we're saying. And I think that so many people benefit from that. It's not just, call me, I'm the expert. It's here's what I've been through. Here's what I know. And here's what you should do. And not just the picture. So after you make the picture.
Yes, yes. That's the key is education. Don't just do it. Don't, understand why you're doing it and understand the purpose of why you be intentional. That's the biggest key of everything. Be intentional with how you eat, be intentional with how you communicate, be intent because people don't understand there's a energy that comes out from certain words that you say. If you know what I'm saying, you wake up from bed and say, oh, I can't stand going to work today. No, shift that and say, I'm thankful for going to work today. I'm thankful for having an income to pay my bills, to keep a roof over my head for my family. They're just shifting that and adding the gratitude in it can help rewire and reframe your mindset. So that's another key piece that I try to educate individuals on. So
yes, so thank you so much. I have my little mug today. I often have this mug. I haven't talked about it, but this is the last mug that my husband bought me before I lost my husband, and it says, "Start each day with a grateful heart." And this is exactly that for me. I was on a path of entrepreneurship and just wanting to be focused. And so he bought me this mug to have sitting at my computer as I was facing my dreams, as my, here you go, be encouraged after you go out here and conquer the world. And
yes.
so now it is definitely like just a valuable piece for me with what you said to every day as I'm drinking out of here. Gratitude through all of the storms, through all of the things, not trying, but consciously and intentionally, what you're saying with gratitude. I heard someone say, have an intentional great day.
Yes.
And I loved that. Like, have an intentional great day.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I love that.
So thank you, Janae. We'll be looking for you in the community, and we hope that anyone here that has heard what Janae is talking about and needs that safe space, is ready to do their internal work, and needs an accountability partner. You've got to hear firsthand Janae's story. You know her credibility, you know her education, you know her life experience. I know if anyone is like me, education is great, but I also want to know what you have gone through yourself. So yes, anyone out there, please contact Miss Janae Ford. So wonderful. And we're just excited for everything that you have now and in the future. And we're excited to watch your path continue to grow and unfold.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I think this is an amazing platform, especially for the women of color in our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Janae. We'll be in touch with you soon, and keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Talk soon.
Okay.
Bye.